Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, and it is the first post Super Bowl Inside the Birds podcast, and that's because the Super Bowl is finally over. The Rams won 23-20. Matthew Stafford is now a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Very interesting game. Adam and I will recap it, and we both had the same initial thought about the game. Good game, came down to the wire there at the end, so some drama there. But I think as two guys who generally like aggressive football, and were as kind of as thrilled as anyone in 2017 to see Doug be as aggressive as he was, including in the Super Bowl with the Philly special, to watch Sunday's game. And I think you and I both thought it would be like this anyway, because both of these coaches are sort of notorious for not going for it on fourth down. They both have kickers who had a lot of points. They're not considered among the aggressive. And it was like that. I mean, there was a lot of running at him when it clearly wasn't working for both teams. Now, I get it on the Bengals part because their O-line is so bad that, I mean, if they tried to pass the ball even more so, they may get Burrow sent into a hospital. And they have a good running back. But I was surprised McVay leaned so much on the run.
Yeah, so my own thoughts would be, the OBJ injury completely changed the complexion of the Rams offense. They just remember now, Tyler Higbee, who's terrific, was out, put on IR with the MCL sprain. We know they lost Robert Woods for the season with the ACL injury. Then OBJ gets hurt in the first half. They're just running out of pass targets. Skoranek, the rookie seventh rounder who they really like, took over at the X position for OBJ, and the one over the middle was not an easy catch. Some people thought he should have it. He's a tall possession receiver. You saw how limited they were with Van Jefferson. I understand that part of it, but Kim Akers has been completely ineffective in the playoffs. This is where I don't understand. Like, you make this trade for Sony Michel, you give him 2 draft picks, you just don't use them. I mean, you just don't use them. I did not understand that. There's no question that the injuries the Rams are dealing with in terms of pass targets clearly impacted them. I don't think there's anyone who could argue against it.
Sure.
But when Akers is ineffective, find another way. This is coaching. Find another way to get the football. It wasn't like they put a lot of pressure on Stafford. They put some, but not a ton. Sacks is not all about pressure. It's about how many times you force the quarterback to get rid of the football. We'll get the Burrow. But Cooper Kupp came up big, as he always does. He's incredible when it counted. But overall, I thought you nailed it on the conservative nature of both coaches. Particularly, man, Zach Taylor has been super conservative in the playoffs. Now, someone argue, hey, it worked against the Titans. Okay, they shortened the game. They knew the Titans couldn't store the football. They couldn't score in the air. Okay. They got down 21-3. And the thing is, he does a lot, and I forget who pointed it out. Someone put it on Twitter, is how predictable they are on first down. First down is the throwing down because you have such an advantage because teams are generally playing their base, whatever their base is.
Right.
That would be my issue with Zach Taylor. And it's funny, I have to tell you, I talked to, I would say, 12 to 15 former NFL players. There are a lot of them that don't think the Bengals will make the playoffs next year. I think it sounds ridiculous, but you know what? They're a good team. It wouldn't shock me if they didn't make the playoffs. They're a nice team. They're nothing to write home about. Rams are a better team, better talent if they have all their players. But I just thought that was interesting. A lot of people thought that the miracle win against the Chiefs. They barely beat the Titans, so maybe people are onto something.
Yeah, listen, we talked about this, I think, in the last few pods, that when you play in the AFC North and you got to battle it out with Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and for the last 2 years, the Browns have been a respectable team. I mean, certainly 2 years ago they made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. And then this past year they had a lot of injuries, but they weren't an awful team. They were just not very good. And, if they get a few things going right, they can be a good team again. So that's a very, very, I agree with you. It's a tough division, a competitive division. It's not like when the Patriots were in the AFC East and they would get hand-delivered 5 or 6 games a year, but with the Jets and the Bills and the Dolphins, right? So I agree. I would, who knows what's going to happen next year, and I'm sure the Bengals are going to address the offensive line in this year's draft and free agency. But Yeah, I agree with you. As well, I love Joe Burrow. I think it's hard for that kind of team to start to be like a dynastic type team or just get right back there next year just based on their division alone. So we'll see what goes on. Another thing that kind of popped up in my head is like the little things, in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl that can go here or there. Like, what if Brandon Graham doesn't sack Tom Brady? Right? And the little things like Tyler Boyd, who doesn't drop a pass all year, dropped a ball that was going to be right up on the first down marker. If his momentum, he might have got first down. Yeah. So that was big. They had a 3rd-and-1 run that Aaron Donald was just on. Aaron Donald shed his blocker and made the tackle at the same time. That's just unbelievable.
That's incredible. It's funny because in the first half, they did this highlight package, NBC, of how Burrow on 3-step drop was just getting out of his hand. They only gave the one sack, and then they gave 6 in the second half. So we give our props to our friends at DraftKings. So I played 8 props. It's funny. I had the Boyd over yardage prop at 43.5, and he had 48. I missed on the Higgins 5.5 over 5.5 catches. Goodness, I should have hit the yardage. By the way, he face masked Ramsey. What a missed call. That's embarrassing. How did they miss that? Come on, man. It's a joke.
Yeah, no. And Ramsey, my God, I mean, he tries to jump on that last drive by the Bengals. By the Bengals. He tried to jump in front of that pass to Chase, and wound up giving up 20 yards on it. It's like, come on, you're only up by 3. The field goal is all they need to tie the game, and you're trying to jump a pass there. I thought that was a risk on his end that was could have wound up hurting him. And in the end, it did not. Kupp got MVP, so I think that's pretty cool. I always like it when a non-quarterback gets the MVP, and I certainly think he deserved it. You could have probably made an argument for Aaron Donald. What did Aaron Donald have? He had 2 sacks, right?
One was cheap.
That's true. He had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 3
but he got
quarterback hits.
Yeah, he got Harry's though. Yeah,
he definitely did.
Was a joke. Right. I had the Donald full sack prop, and I was nervous. He didn't have anything until mid-second quarter, and then he got the cheap because he just chased Burrow out of bounds and hit him hard out of bounds, and that I was like, man, I hope this counts as a sack. Then I don't have to worry about it, and it did. But you saw the problems, the whole matchup. Every ex-player I talked to mentioned the same thing. The interior of the Bengals offensive line was going to get housed. It did. Quentin Spain is so not athletic. This is why he keeps bouncing around. I'd be shocked if he started next year. Denji is the right guard, who's been a good story.
Yeah, he was bad in that game.
Yeah, he struggled. And Isaiah Prince is not a starting right tackle.
The right tackle was that. He had it real tough.
Yeah. Jonah Williams is really good at left tackle. And Isaiah Prince is a below average right tackle. So you're right. They have the number one thing they have to do is address their offensive line. They need 3 new starters. And then the other thing is you can't trot Eli Apple out there. I mean, come on. I know he's competitive at times, but Kupp got him what he needed to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right. Nonetheless, it was, and by the way, I thought the fourth quarter was obviously good. It was a close game. It was a great last 10 minutes, but did I love it, the Super Bowl in general? No, I didn't. I thought it was kind of, for 2 quarters there, second and third quarter, I thought it was kind of and I was sort of disappointed in the Rams not trying to get the ball to Cooper Kupp more, even though I'm sure he was seeing a lot of coverage. But, I mean, he was able to do it in the most important time of the game. I just thought he was going to guys like Skoranek and Van Jefferson with the short stuff way too much and lost sight of what they do best there. So it wound up just being an okay game until the last 5 minutes. So thankfully we had the last good 5 minutes though. And
True.
you and I we both picked the Rams. A lot of people were loving the Bengals, which totally understand. And we were close because I know I picked like 26-21. And I thought you picked something I thought you picked a Rams 4-point victory, like 27-23, I think, right?
I did. I got hazed on Sports Grid from my friend Scott Farrell. He's like, how could you pick right on the number? I'm like, this is my score. What do you want me to do? I had it 27-23 Rams. If OBJ does not get hurt, I mean, he could have had a huge game. He looked like he was ready to go. It's a shame. It's the same left knee with the ACL tear from 2 years ago. So that's disappointing. Because they clearly could have put up more points, but I just hate conservative football. I don't know why coaches do that. It's like they're trying not to lose the game, and you can't do that. But hey, the Rams got their Super Bowl, their second in team history. Obviously, last time they did it with Kurt Warner, number 13.
Yep, there you go. We will get into some Eagles angles on this. We'll talk a few things. We've got some NFL talk as well that goes beyond the Super Bowl. We are officially into the off season now that the Super Bowl is over, and we're just a few weeks away from the start of free agency. And then, of course, which is March, I think 14th is the start of the legal tampering window. And then obviously quickly we'll head up to the draft after that. As we've been telling you, we've got great coverage on Inside the Birds that goes beyond just the Inside the Birds podcast. On Tuesday morning, you'll have the second installment of Trey Thomas's video breakdowns called On the Tape with Trey Thomas. He's the first one was great. It was well received. Everybody checked it out. It was about a protection scheme, the way the Eagles use their slide and man protection up front, and how the Buccaneers were one team that kind of exploited some of their issues. And then within the protection scheme, he talked about how that might have impacted Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, certain things going on in front of Jalen that might have made him a little skittish in the pocket. So it's really fascinating how he folded in the offensive line concept with the running back protection concept with the quarterback concept. And it was great. The one that's going to be coming out Tuesday, Adam, is going to be on the running game. You know, how more so we talked about the evolution of it from when it started against the Raiders and then Lions as a kind of a downhill running attack. And then it opened up into a shotgun, spread running attack with quarterback zone read and everything like that. And so Trey is really going to get into that running game, what made it function well, the left side of the line with Mailata and Dickerson, and of course, Jalen Hurts as a runner, and just kind of tie it all up and wrap it all up. So it should be fantastic. And I look forward to that coming out. Q&A is now on a little bit of a break. So hopefully we'll get them back in a couple of weeks. They just needed to kind of recharge their batteries. And what am I missing? There's another
Greg Cosell.
Greg Cosell, of course.
Yeah.
That will start not this week, but the next week. All right. It's going to start on, I believe, Wednesday. And right now I can't remember the day. Is that February 23rd? Does that sound right?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
And Greg is going to do a weekly show with us called The Intel with Greg Cosell, and starting the 23rd. So every Wednesday for the first for 5 straight weeks, he's going to help us preview free agents. We'll break it up by position, and then
real quick,
go ahead.
Although we may have to move it up because I think based on your timeline, it'll go past the start of free agency, so we might have to double up some positions. We'll have to take a look again at those dates.
Yeah, that's true. Hold on, we'll have to figure that out. It may be that we just do a couple of free agents and then go into the draft, but we'll get there.
Or no, we could just double up 2 positions, or whatever. We could definitely get it all in by the 16th. Is it? The open negotiate period is 3 days before that, so yeah, we're gonna have to probably move it up a little bit. But
yeah, that's true. I don't know how we messed that up. That's weird. I thought I had scheduled it to coincide.
But I love it though. I mean, because the great thing is we're going to cover so much ground, and no matter what team of fan you are, obviously this is an Eagles show, but we also cover the entire league, and we will discuss how guys fit in, whether it's the NFC East, Eagles potential targets. We'll have more when we get to the combine. We had some pretty significant scoops 2 years ago that we got when we were at the combine. So we look forward to doing some shows from there. Yeah, that's right. We did a couple. Yeah, that's right. In February of 2020. Wow, right for the shutdown.
Absolutely. Give me something out in Super Bowl week that stuck out to you. Whether Intel or something interesting. I mean, you were out in LA. By the way, I know that the stadium there has like that open side to it, like it's an open air side part of the stadium, even though it has a roof. But I was sort of shocked to hear that there's no like climate control system. Like they don't have air conditioning. It's a $5 billion stadium. It has no climate control.
I had the sound down for most of the game, so I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
A couple things. First of all, talking to the locals, it was one of the warmest weeks they've had in February in years. It was in the high 80s all week.
Yeah, wasn't there like a heat advisory or something? I heard.
Yeah, it was weird because first of all, the flight back on Sunday was freezing on American. I mean, I'm glad I brought my vest. But during outside, I mean, I was able to go out in a t-shirt. It was just really bizarre, and it was very warm. It was cool. So, the players that see, it's interesting. Players are like you and I do. The players I spoke with, a lot of them. Oh, it was great. Oh my goodness gracious! My friend Ian Beckles. Remember Ian Beckles, who played for the Eagles? We've talked about him before. He saw what everyone else saw. He was not there for WDA in Tampa. He was back at the station in Tampa. But everybody looks for an advantage. And Ian and so many players said it's real simple. You know going into this game where the advantages are. The Rams front seven, and boy did that show up with Von Miller and Leonard Floyd, and obviously the great 99 Donald. And it's kind of like, okay, they took this, they did 3-step drops to help negate the pass rush. Okay, that's good coaching there. But when that doesn't work, and I know Uzama did what he could, you're basically going to have to me, you go 12 personnel the entire game. Now, what the thing is, the Rams and Bengals run the most 11 personnel in the NFL. Rams 1, Bengals 2. You're going to have to change it up. When you can't protect the second half, what are you doing to help your quarterback? And it seemed like Burrow got stuck in the pocket. Wasn't sure where to go with the football because Uzama was in blocking, and plus he can't move very well because of the MCL sprain. And it just seemed like, boy, the wart's showing up. And how the hell, by the way, that's another problem I had with the Bengals front office. It's really the owner, Mike Brown, is still with personnel control. When you spend the first pick overall on a quarterback, how the hell can you have tried out an offensive line like this? Like, it's a complete anomaly that this team made it this far. I mean, it's embarrassing to put out an offensive line like this.
Definitely, though. All right, not only is it the worst offensive line that I can remember being in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, what's the worst position group that's ever made a Super Bowl, right? I mean, maybe the Eagles cornerbacks in 2017. I don't know. But you just rarely see a team. We talk about how important the offensive line. One of the main reasons this year's Eagles team won 9 games was because of they invest in the offensive line, because there were a lot of other areas of the team that just weren't that good. They were just okay. But when we always say, when you're strong on the O-line and the D-line, you're going to give yourself a chance to win games. And then it comes down to your quarterback play, your coaching, and some other like explosive plays and stuff like that. For the Bengals to have made it this, like you just said, to the Super Bowl with just a really bad offensive line is unbelievable. Like, he got sacked 7 times and still had a 101 passer rating in this game. That's mind-boggling.
He's tough, man, physically. And you saw he hurt his right knee. He was able to get back. Stafford turned his ankle. How about Vernon Hargreaves getting that stupid penalty, the celebration penalty, coming off the bench? He's not even active.
I know. It's just embarrassing. Especially since his career has not been very stellar since being a first-round pick. So.
Former first-rounder. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, who is that? Oh, it's Vernon Hargreaves. Oh, boy. Okay. But, takeaways, just really, players know what they're looking at, man. And I was glad that they agreed with us on the matchups, because in the end, the matchup won the game for me. I think when you look at it, was that the Rams front seven, boy, they feasted in the second half, and Burrow got beaten up on the interior. And you're right on talking about Eagles' offensive line as we spin it forward with them. Over the years, more often than not, when they make the playoffs, it's hard to. I mean, we have to go back and look at this up. Was there a time the Eagles made the playoffs that didn't have a good offensive line?
Oh man, I can't. Not since I've been covering the team. They've prioritized it for such a long time that you can't even find too many. The only time I remember, Adam, is the 2009 season, Donovan's last game. They go down to Dallas and they lose the season finale. Then they have to go back to Dallas and they lose in almost similar fashion, like 24-14 or 27-14. It was bad, but the offensive line was only bad because of the injuries. I mean, and it was bad. I mean, they had like Nick Cole was starting center and Max Jean Gillies was starting right guard and some other backup was starting left guard. And they made the playoffs, but I mean, clearly not very. No, I think it was somebody else.
No, it wasn't. I'm looking at it. You mean the last game against Dallas or 09 or
09? Yeah, the last game in the playoff game of 2009.
Oh boy. Winston Justice started right tackle.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had Winston, Nick Cole, and Max Jean Gillies in there. That's not one of their better offensive lines.
No. Well, Todd was still, obviously, Peters was elite. Todd was good at left guard.
Yeah.
Nick Cole is the fire hydrant. He was built low to the ground. 2 studs, and then you got problems. Now, what you said there were injuries. King
Nick Cole and Gene Gillies were backups. They were put in there because I guess Jamal got hurt at center and Sean Andrews got hurt at right guard. And Winnie was the starting right tackle, but I think he had suffered a knee injury late in that year, and he just was not the same at that point. So yeah, that was not one of the that answers your question. That did they make the offensive line make the playoffs with a bad offensive line? Yes, but that's because it wasn't really their full offensive line all year. It just was not a good offensive line by the end of the year, and I think they won 9 straight games that year too. They really,
wow.
They had a good thing going, and then all those injuries came in to haunt them at the end.
And I forgot they played Dallas back-to-back week 17, and they played them again in the first playoff game. They got blown out.
Yep.
You're right. I mean, you're right by injury. So that was Donovan's last game. Was that the fake guitar? You know, when people killed him for that. Oh, geez. Macklin had a monster game, and Miles Austin, who's a receivers coach for the Jets, had a big game. He crushed the Eagles in that game, and he became an Eagle later on, didn't he? A little bit.
He did. He was on Cleveland, right? And then he was an Eagle. Was it Eagle after Cleveland or Eagles then Cleveland? I forget.
I don't know, but he
suffered a lacerated kidney with some team that he was. I think it was when he was with the Browns, and it was pretty bad.
Smoked the Eagles in that first playoff game.
Who's that?
Felix Jones.
Yeah,
crushed.
Yeah. I was there. I remember. I remember. That was rough.
What do you think of that stadium?
I hate that stadium. I can't stand that stadium.
Too big.
Too gaudy, too everything about it's just not about football. Like you got these enormous like platforms that you got cheerleaders dancing on all around the stadium. It's like a WWE event more than a football game. I mean, I think the stadium, the scoreboard, it's great that it's huge, but I think I was watching, the crowd winds up looking at the scoreboard more so than the action on the field. It's just too much. I like authentic stadiums.
I agree. I guess Kevin Curtis was hurt that game, huh? Because he didn't play.
Yes, that was another one of their injuries that kind of hurt them.
That's a bad one. Yeah. What did he put up against Detroit? 200 some odd yards? That's ridiculous in that hot game against
John Kitna was in that game, right? Against the Lions.
The only thing I remember is Eagles were the throwbacks, and Curtis could not be stopped. It was one of the most it seemed like every play was big on that game, and but just getting back to the Eagles, when you're strong on the lines, you give yourself a shot, and the Bengals should be embarrassed. How can Mike Brown be the son of the legend Paul Brown and not get this? This is beyond.
It's amazing that you said that. I had that conversation with a friend of mine who I was watching the game with, and I said, I can't. I'm not surprised when owners per se don't know what they're doing because maybe they inherited the team or they're billionaires from the beginning. Mike Brown, he played football, and his father is a legendary coach. You would think that he, more so than most owners, would understand what it takes from top to bottom to be a successful long-term franchise. I mean, they're notorious for pouring zero money into their scouting department, letting good people walk, and just not really running a good organization. That's why every once in a blue moon they make it to the Super Bowl instead of a little bit more consistently. But you would think someone with a pedigree of Mike Brown would do a better job of running a football team.
So, a couple things on that before we go to some questions. We got a couple good questions here. When I first started covering the league, this is incredible. It was absolutely true because I remember talking to coaches. They had no scouts in the late 90s. The coaches would scout. They didn't have a scouting department. It's true. It seems ridiculous, and I remember hearing about this. I'm like, this can't be true. Then I talked to the coaches at it might have been East West Shrine or Senior Bowl. Like, oh yeah, our season's over now. We're going to scout. Well, they're so bad they didn't get in the playoffs anyway. So it's just embarrassing. And now they still have one of the small scouting departments. Yes, now they have a scouting department. Duke Tobin, Bill Tobin's son, runs it.
And he's good.
Duke's pretty good. Yeah, he's turned down opportunities to be a GM because he's basically running personnel for Mike Brown, and Mike holds personnel control, but he defers to Duke quite a bit. They finally got into free agency a little bit. They nailed Trey Hendrickson. That was a great signing. DJ Reader's been a good signing. He was hurt last year, but he did a good job. They trade for BJ Hill. It's funny. Mike Brown hates trading, but they made that acquisition, and they really needed that. As I said earlier, Eli Apple's not a starting corner. That was a mistake, but they kind of don't have enough corners. And how about this? Jesse Bates, who didn't have a great year, his contract's up. I know he won't be an Eagle because the Eagles won't spend money. They have the big
not
pick.
on a safety. They'll spend money
Right,
just not
on a safety. Right. He's up. We'll see.
We will see. By the way, imagine being a young Cincinnati fan in the after the into the 90s, right? So after the Bengals have already made their 2 Super Bowls in the 80s, and you're relying on you got only 2 teams, professional teams to root for. You got the Bengals and you got the Reds. You got Mike Brown and you got Marge Schott. Remember her? Marge Schott, the owner of the Reds. Oh man, if you're young out there and you don't know the history of the Reds, Google Rick Riley, Sports Illustrated, and Marge Schott, Schott. It was a cover story about the woman who used to be the owner of the Reds, and some of the awful, terrible ways that she ran that frame. Like there are some
frugality, and
you'll read that and your eyes will fall out.
Yeah, embarrassing.
Yeah. All right, let us move on to some Eagles topics and some NFL topics. First, I want to tell you to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet $1, just $1 on any NBA team, and you can get $150 in free bets if that team wins. That's promo code ITB at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Got to be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only. Minimum $5 deposit restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, I want to get some NFL storylines first that are going to probably gain steam here, and they started on Super Bowl Sunday, Adam. And that's the quarterback drama that's going on currently with both Carson Wentz and Kyler Murray. Reports from, I believe, your buddy Chris Mortensen that the Colts are strongly considering either releasing or trading Carson Wentz, and then also on Murray that there's some repairing of a relationship that seemingly needs to happen here between the Cardinals and Kyler. And I had no idea that there was any kind of until he scrubbed his social media. I had no idea anything was brewing there. But what's your sense of both of these situations?
All right, so Carson Wentz, this one's easy. So Chris Ballard, the GM, buried Wentz in his postseason. Right after the season was over, after they lost to Jaguars, clearly Ballard was angry. He's a very emotional guy.
He is.
Signs were ominous when he went public with his problems with the way that Wentz closed the season, because Cosell told us up to the final 2 games he actually played fairly well. There was really no reason to think that he wouldn't be the quarterback, and then he was terrible. Now, as you pointed out to me, and I have to look it up, I remember he went on the COVID list, but wound up playing in the same week. Now, that what happened was he didn't wind up practicing, but got cleared to play on that Sunday. Well, clearly he was not ready to play. And I'm very surprised that Ballard did not take that to account when he criticized Wentz. And then the other thing
that was part of the criticism that he had to be on the COVID list longer than most because he was not a vaccinated player.
Sure. But the fact of the matter is he missed practice time. And look, you need practice time. So, I mean, if you're trying, based on Mort's report, obviously they want to see if they can move him. But here's the problem with his contract, right? So, $15 million of his $22 million is already fully guaranteed, so they already owe them that no matter what happens. And then the remaining $7 million becomes fully guaranteed on the third day of the league year. The other $5 million in cash is in a roster bonus, also due on the third day of the league year. So, so if they cut him, they could avoid $12 million additionally. If he's on the roster on the third day of the league year, he's owed $27 million in cash and cap. So I don't want to say that the contract's untradeable, but because he closed the season poorly, the fact that I just wonder if there's something else going on here. It's very bizarre to me the way that Ballard went after Wentz as he did. And think about this. The only team to make an offer to the Eagles happened to be the Colts. I'm told the Bears backed out a week before the Colts got Wentz. So it's unbelievable the Eagles got a first and a third for this guy. Can you imagine? They're most likely going to give up. They're going to give up. So they gave up for 1 year a first and third round pick. They don't have a first this year. Good luck, Ballard, getting a quarterback. He does a pretty good job, but I think he needs to take a look at this thing, because if you look at all the teams that need quarterbacks, we'll go over this more. We'll probably do that this week. We'll start on free agency as we always do at this time of year, and we'll mix eventually in some draft stuff. And we'll get heavy draft, obviously, when we get the combine, mix in free agency. But This might be a record amount of teams that need free quarterbacks. And then after 22, after this coming season, there are another 8 teams. I've already done my work on just looking at the landscape of quarterback for all 32 teams. I'm just very surprised that Ballard would give up any type of leverage by burying Wentz as he did. But this is what happens when you bury the guy you traded for. It's not smart. And then Mort's report, you would hope, because I know from the Senior Bowl, I checked into it. The Wentz's side had not heard one way or the other what the Colts were going to do. But I don't think anyone should be surprised by Mort's report based on the way that Ballard spoke publicly about him.
Yeah, no, and listen, Mort was first on it in our area, I think, when Carson got benched against what game was it? Green Bay, and then he got benched fully. Which game did they pull him out of? Yeah, Green Bay, and then New Orleans is when Jalen Hurts started, and I think it was right before that game that Mort reported that Carson was basically putting out the vibe he wanted out after that benching, and a lot of people thought that was not going to be true, but it wound up being true. He wanted out, and he got out. Now, I saw some interesting commentary about how he was a genius because he got rid of Carson Wentz when it was clear Wentz was on the decline. Look, Howie got great value. Howie got great value. There's no doubt about it. But Howie did not get rid of Carson Wentz because he sensed he was on the decline. And if Carson Wentz at any time had said, you know what, I do want to come back to the Eagles, he would have been an Eagle. There's just not even a question about that. So it's fun. I know you're Eagles fans and you want to pile on and make your guys seem like gods, and everybody who's not in a foot are terrible. But that's the reality. If Carson Wentz said, I want to come back at any moment during his, whatever you want to call it, holdout, he would have been back. In fact, Adam, you reported on our podcast that while they were interviewing head coaches, many of the head coaches were of the belief that Carson Wentz was still going to be, many of the head coaching candidates were still of the belief that Carson Wentz was going to be on the roster there. So,
and by the way, I think what happened after that was, again, this is a year ago. My gosh, time has flown. But my sense is the Eagles felt they could convince Wentz to calm down and maybe back off, but he never did. And he was angry. He wanted out badly. Like it wasn't going to get any farther because they knew how much he wanted out. They felt at some point they were at the point of no return. Like they knew they wouldn't come back. It could have been a problem if they pushed it. And to take on that type of dead money, of course that it was all about Wentz wanting out. But they got 2 draft picks, and again, they had one team make an offer. It's more luck than anything.
Fantastic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the part that's fantastic. The value that they were able to get.
Yeah, I'll give Roseman credit, but I'm not going to give them the Holy Grail because they got kind of lucky. It's not like here's the crazy thing: they had no leverage. There was none of it. When you do contract negotiations, if those of us who've ever had to do negotiations on our own, where you're trying to get a job, you like another company in it. Well, that way you get leverage. Well, the Eagles didn't have leverage. Everybody knew, but Frank Reich stuck his neck out here for Wentz. And Ballard backed. By the way, Ballard really backed Reich. He wouldn't criticize him. He said no. It's if he said this, like even if they move on from Wentz, which they're clearly going to do based on Wert's report, it's not that he doesn't judge Reich differently. And here's another little nugget, which surprised me. Mike Rowe left the Colts. He's now the same job. He's
I think right?
He went to the Colts. I mean, to the Giants to coach the receivers. I know I think his contract was up because he was there for 2 years. But why would he leave the Colts like that and take the Giants job? Other than, I guess he's from that area. His dad Al coached the Jets, but that surprised me that he would leave the Colts after 2 years.
I agree with you. I was a little surprised by that too. There's one look we can criticize Groh for his time as offensive coordinator, but he did a heck of a job here as wide receivers coach. And now he goes to the Giants. They have good wide receiver talent. And again, it just adds to that experienced staff that we've talked about with Dable as your head coach and Martindale is the defensive coordinator. Kafka is the offensive coordinator. Now Mike Rowe, wide receivers coach. That's good experience right there. It's a nice job.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works. We'll see how that manifests on the roster. What do you think about the Kyler thing? Do you think at the end of the day he's going to be an Arizona Cardinal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Here's what you got to understand. Cliff Kingsbury, the reason why he became the head coach is because they wanted him to run his offense. He could only do it, he felt, with Kyler Murray. That's why they traded Josh Rosen. They're tied together. Now, Kingsbury's on the final year of his contract. You don't often see guys. He'll go to the 22 season on the final year of his deal, and I didn't get the sense at the Senior Bowl that the Cardinals were motivated to extend his contract at this point. And things obviously could change. We're only in February now. Things could always change, but they're kind of married together here, and we'll have to see what happens in terms of the future. But yeah, it's the Murray could really. You can't say he could only run the scheme, but this is a scheme that they wanted him to run. Is Kingsbury's scheme. So, boy, it's never good when a guy scrubs everything off of his team. And Mort's report, it's interesting. He clearly got information from both sides, which is credit to him. And the stuff that he got, I mean, from the Cardinal sources, whatever. I mean, wow, being that he doesn't, he's not taking responsibility and he's finger pointing and all this, then he feels like, Mort had his information. How that Murray felt about it. So it's pretty fascinating to see kind of this quarterback carousel, man, and the quarterbacks now are taking control. By the way, we'll see what Russell Wilson wants to do. He hasn't spoken up that the Seahawks don't want to trade him, but that doesn't mean he won't be traded. Depends on what Russ wants. If Russ tries to push for a trade, look out, but we'll see.
How is Russ Wilson sitting right next to Roger Goodell at the Super Bowl? Like, I know he's a great quarterback, and I know he's Mr. NFL, and he's, Mr. like he does everything right, almost to like a nauseous point. But like, why is he sitting next to Roger Goodell?
It's funny. We saw Benifer there. We saw.
I would understand them sitting next to Roger Goodell more than Russell Will.
How does Ben? What's his face? What's the guy's last name? What's his last name? The actor. Affleck.
Ben Affleck. Yeah.
How does he do it? How does he go out with all these women? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what are these? I don't get it, man.
He's a handsome man. No. The question is how Pete Davidson. How does Pete Davidson do it? That's what I gotta wonder.
Well, no, but Ben is like Jennifer Aniston, J-Lo now going out with her twice. I'm none of those other women that as we go Hollywood here, but all laughter here. That was kind of weird to see. I don't know what they're, why they're sitting next to each other. Maybe it was just temporary, but I'm just glad we had a decent competitive Super Bowl. And it sucks when guys get hurt. The OBJ injury, it's too bad. It's that same knee that took a little starch out of the game. But overall, good for the Rams. Could this be another situation where it's a team, the loser doesn't get to the playoffs next year in the Super Bowl? We'll have to see.
Right. All right, one quick Eagle angle before we get to some questions. Yeah. You ever see the meme on Twitter or the internet of the woman who takes a drink of it looks like a beer can, and she's not quite sure how she feels about it at first. She's like, she gives like the kind of eye raise, like, oh, not bad. Then, ooh, she makes the bitter face. Then she's like, oh, no, better. And then she like kind of gives a thumbs up face, and she makes like a series of faces that can tell she's very conflicted about if she likes this beer or not. She's not sure. Why do I bring this up? So Jason Kelce was on, I think did an interview with WIP last week. And I think it was with Joe DeCamara and John Ritchie. And they asked him right as he was about to, get off. I think Joe DeCamara said, "Hey, listen, are you coming back or not? Do you know what you're going to do?" And Jason gave a really long answer that kind of started off admitting that he was thinking that this year was going to be his last, and he needs time. And
this past season?
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah. That the past season,
the 21 season. Okay.
Right. So, and then he said something like, the mind always wants to do it. It's the body. It's that's the question. Can I hold up? Can I do? So he gave this very long answer, and that I was that meme during. I'm like, oh yeah, he's coming back. Oh, wait, no, maybe he's not. Oh yeah. It sounds like he is coming. No, maybe he's not. Like it was really like that. That's how I was. And then, of course, I think it was Jeff McClain who wrote a story in the Inquirer that came out either Saturday or Sunday. With Jason Kelce about what he's going to do for his future, and kind of again giving the vibe that probably, but not completely 100%. So I think the tone of Jeff's story was that the people close to Jason think he's going to come back.
Yep.
But if it does, that sets in motion a whole lot of things, right? Because the first thing they have to do is redo the contract, because as you were the first, and I think still the only person to report, he's got some crazy ass poison pill that just brought him back last year that said if he had to come back again, he's paying, what, $25 million or something like
30.
that?
Yeah, 30 million. I think June 3rd. it's for some reason it's after post June 1. I guess is the way they set it up. It just forces his base salary is only $1.5 million.
Right.
So they would have to decline it, which means they have to release him. They don't never get to that. I don't want to say shocked. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play. I checked. We checked into it. He felt pretty good after the season. I guess that's never perfect. He's had this. I'd have to go back and see how many times he's listed with it. But he's had this creaky knee, one of his knees. Right. He had some sort of residual soreness. But I would think this would be his retirement tour. This will be. Again, you never know. We're not him. We don't speak for him. But every indication I got is that he's probably will return. I would agree with whatever. I didn't see the article, but I saw the headline. I would agree with that. Nothing's for certain. It's really up to him. We don't want to put words in his mouth.
Right.
But listen, if he surprises us and retires, and then we're really going to have to look. Let me ask you this one off that. If he surprises us and retires, do they need to draft? Because this will be obviously a question we'll get. We'll have to look into it. Do you think they would draft an interior lineman early and center guard early?
I almost think it's not mutually exclusive. I think they could draft one even if he comes back, knowing that he's probably only going to play a year anyway.
Right.
I don't think it would accelerate it though. I don't think if he didn't come back, that if they're sitting there at like 19 and that guy from Iowa is on Linderbaum, and they're like, oh well, Kelce, we have to take him now. I think that he'd probably be considered anyway. And listen, you've got Dickerson, you got Samalu.
Right.
You've got options there. And then
that's why
you have plenty of guys who can play guard if one of those two move to center. So I think they're just going to address the offensive line the way they normally do, which is as much as they can within reason.
Yeah,
would be a good. I think it opens up a really good conversation though, Adam, about what they can do schematically, what they are in the post Jason Kelce era as far as inside zone, outside zone, or do they become a little more gap, a little more power blocking with bigger guys? One thing that Kelce said in that interview with the Cameron and Richie, which was so awesome. The guy has such great self-awareness. They asked him what he felt about being a potential Hall of Famer. And Jason said that when he thinks of players who are Hall of Fame, he thinks of guys who are not scheme specific, just guys who, no matter where you put them on the field, they're so good that they just will dominate. Like you put Aaron Donald and Lawrence Taylor on a defense, it doesn't matter where you line up, they're going to be good. Okay.
Sure.
And he sort of was saying like, I've always been in schemes that were catered toward my strength. And therefore it was almost his way of saying, look, I think I am good at what I do when I'm put in the right position to succeed. But if you start to compare me to maybe some of the best that's ever done it at my position, Mike Webster or Damani Dawson, Kevin Mawai, I don't know, maybe it's not the same. Maybe it's not as fair because those guys maybe were a little bit bigger and stronger and they can do what I can do. Maybe not as athletic as me, but they make up for it with what they can do as far as a power run type. So I thought it was a really good self-assessment of him and his abilities. But you know what? The game has changed. So the style of center that he is works now. You want athletic guys. You see more undersized guys who can get out on the edges and make those second level blocks. So comparing Jason Kelce to today's center, he's clearly an elite center and should be given that kind of consideration.
He will absolutely make the Hall of Fame. He's special. I know in Philly, we look at him a little differently nationally. I believe he's nationally known as a great player. I don't think there's any question about it. And a 6th-round pick, by the way. Before we get to the questions, real quick. So it was cool. So I talked to Jordan Mailata at the Super Bowl. It was great to see him for about 5 minutes. He looks. I didn't ask what his weight was because I remember we had reported he was 402 in their OTAs, and then he lost the weight, got down to 380, 375. He looked great. He looked in tremendous shape. I didn't ask what his weight was, but it was good to talk to him. I'd never talked to him before in person, so it was good to see him. Slay was there. LaShawn McCoy was there at Super Bowl. Let me see. Who else was there? Rodney McLeod was there. Torrey Smith was there. Good to talk to him for a sec. Current Eagles, former Eagles. There had to be more. This is great, though. I got to tell you, meeting the guy who caught the first touchdown pass from Brett Favre, Kittrick Taylor. What a nice guy. That was kind of cool. Yeah, that was really cool. Like that was like the highlight of my week. It's just because he's a trivia question, and he's a super nice guy. Doing great work for I don't know what town he lives in. I forget, but he's doing some great stuff for the community. So kudos to him.
All right, good stuff there. So we'll get into our questions. We'll pause real quick for to remind you that we've got some great friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. They've got great content on all the teams, and I'm sure that they are churning it out on the James Harden trade and the pairing now of Embiid, Harding, Tobias Harris, and this awesome 76ers team that I think is about to take off. So make sure you go check them out at PHLSportsNation.com or on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. And let's pause real quick for a word from our other great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, if you check out our friends at Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, if you stop in, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, a few Ask ITB questions before we bounce out of here. Here's a really good question from our Apple review. I promised everybody, and I still say this, if you give us a 5-star review on Apple, if you're an Apple user and leave us a 5-star review, we will get to your question and answer it. We're a little late. This one's a couple weeks old, but I definitely want to get to it. The question is from Jay Bevs, and he asks about the Eagles acquiring players specific to Jonathan Gannon's scheme. We've talked about that, about getting players that Jonathan Gannon would want to execute a scheme. But then what would happen if he left to become a head coach? Wouldn't that sort of handicap the defensive coordinator? Which is a fair question, but I don't think it handicaps either.
No.
Go ahead. You tackle that.
Yeah, what I would say is because he doesn't run. It's funny. Technically, they run a 43 front, but they don't really run that because they run a lot of 5-2. Right. They have that add-in defender in the box. They run multiple fronts, 34, 43, 5-2. They do a lot of different things. So, no, I don't think it would matter at all, to be honest. I don't think it even factors in. I think they could run whatever they wanted with or without him. Yeah. He just has to do a better job. I mean, there's just no sugarcoating. He didn't do a good enough job. We all know that. It's not it's not a secret. He needs to do a better job. He kind of was underwhelming. Mm-hmm. I do need, though, on your question, though, we need to say this. This is important. They must address the defense. They need, other than the Eagles dressing a receiver, which we all know is an issue, they must address the defense. They have a lack of playmakers. They have a lack of talent. It's almost people we've spoken to in recent weeks will tell you it's pretty impressive that the Eagles made the playoffs. I understand, they got pretty much handled by the Bucs. There's no defending it. They did. They got smoked, but still made the playoffs. With that roster to make the playoffs, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the only type of player I think that would really enter the conversation of that question would be like, let's say they went out and signed like a 335-pound run stuffing tackle for first and second down, and then he left, and then they hire a coordinator next year that's a one gap, like Jim Schwartz type guy, upfield lineman. Then they probably just would either trade or release they're not going to pour a lot of money into that kind of a situational lineman anyway. Definitely so not. It's probably going to be a 1-year deal. Yep. As far as the back end that we've talked about, well, he needs athletic linebackers. He needs, in our opinion, safeties that can, come up, play back, be interchangeable. But most defensive coordinators want that anyway, regardless of what scheme they're doing. So in general, the Eagles just need to get more talented, more versatile, better athletes on the back end, whether it's for Jonathan Gannon's scheme or whoever would be coming in. Even if Jim Schwartz was still coordinator, we were talking about their need for good athletic linebackers and safeties, and they've got to get better at cornerback. Regardless,
they need a lot of help. They need major help on defense. It's major help. I mean, DN is a problem. Safety is a problem. Cornerback depth is a problem. Linebackers are a problem. We could go on. We don't have enough time, but they need major help on defense. That's why it's. I don't say a minor miracle, but it's a pretty good achievement. Despite all the criticism that the team got for this didn't happen, that didn't happen. Despite all that, they made the playoffs. A pretty good achievement considering how undermanned they are in defense, or were.
No doubt about it. So that was the question from the reviews, the Apple reviews. So if you continue to leave us 5-star reviews on Apple, we will continue to answer your question. In the review, if you ask a question, we will continue to answer it. And if you don't want to ask a question, but still want to leave us a 5-star review, we would very much appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. So if you're a big ITB fan, even if you hate us, but you want to just give us a 5-star review because, it's you got empathy for how much you hate us, then do that too. We'd really appreciate it. Whatever floats your boat. We're just looking for some 5-star reviews, and I'm not afraid to have a shameless plug about it. So maybe you hate me for that, and you want to give me a 5-star review for that anyway. That's great. It's awesome.
All right, one more before we get out of here. This is from email at AskITB. This is a good question. We've dealt with this a year ago, so we'll deal with it again. Okay. This one's for you, my friend. Do you guys think Nick Sirianni will bring in veteran coach on offense like Jim Caldwell, or one on Zimmer on defense? I can tell you about Zimmer. I was told by someone wants to be head coach again, someone close to him, and for him to be a D coordinator, if he's going to do it again, he'd like to be closer to his family in the Dallas area because he's got grandkids in Dallas. So I think that could have happened if Dan Quinn became a head coach. Maybe that could have happened. But so I get the question about Zimmer because of the connection with Gannon. But so what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I know that the team has internally discussed at times in this offseason whether or not, to bring in, because there are a lot of names out there, bringing in maybe someone as a consultant or a senior advisor or whatever. There were obviously some prominent coaches out there, both on offense and defense, but I don't understand. I didn't understand it was some kind of major priority. It was just that you see some names out there and you kind of talk about the value of potentially bringing them in. But obviously, some of the guys, I know, and listen, I don't know the names, right? So I'm just going to go through some of the names we've heard of. Like Vic Fangio was out there, but I think the reports are he's taking a year off, right? Who else was out there that carries some? Rod Marinelli is a guy who I thought I tweeted the other day that I thought, man, this guy, he's out with the Raiders, so a lot of teams are going to want him. But apparently he's just calling it a career, and he's 75, so that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, wow. I was shocked when I looked at that too. I mean, he looks young, but he has been a great defensive line coach in this league for a long time. But sounds like man. It sounds like he's finished with that. So, So we'll see. But right now, I mean, the weird thing is, Adam, I think what we last left people with is we heard a couple of coaches maybe being under evaluation, but you're getting deeper into the offseason here and you still have the same coaching staff. So, I mean, at some point, you're having your meetings now and you're getting ready for free agency and then soon the draft. And, you need your coach's input on that. So we'll have to see. I mean, what's today? What is February 14th?
Monday morning. Yeah, it is. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
You would have thought if some moves were going to be made, they'd be made by now, but you just never know.
Yeah, I mean, what's that line you have? I love it. Nobody changes more coaches. What is it? What is that line?
No team hires and fires position coaches and assistant coaches, especially when they make the playoffs, more than the Eagles. So perhaps they're trying to reverse that trend this year.
Well, Doug Peterson was forced to fire some coaches over the years, so we don't know what's going on with Sirianni. And as you said, the staff as of Monday morning now, they're all together. Doesn't mean there won't be changes. And Sirianni smartly at the season-ending press conference said he had not talked to Jeffrey Lurie to have their season-ending meeting. But as you said, I mean, today is February 14th. I mean, this would be super late. I mean, it wouldn't be fair to those coaches if anyone got let go. But and then, by the way, there were 9 teams that changed coaches. So for whatever reason, including, of course, Sean Payton, who semi-retired at least for 1 year.
Right.
There's some good coaches still out there, so we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a fun offseason, I can tell you that, man. Now that we're turning the page now officially to the offseason. This is our 5th year, 18, 19, 20, 22. Yeah, wow, this is our 5th year doing the show. Woo.
No doubt about it. And we are going to have some we will still have more content and some interesting things that we're bringing to Inside the Birds alongside to go with the Trey Thomas tape breakdown show and the Greg Cosell show. And of course, Andrew DeCecco has started his draft notebooks once a week on InsideTheBirds.com. So make sure you're checking that out every week. Go to InsideTheBirds.com every day because there's usually fresh content there. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks as always to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads, and his website is called broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.